everyone? Episode 26, Finding Your Place Today. I got the founder of the Floyd Beacon, Kellean Gale, in the studio with us today. We're just going to kind of discuss who she is and motivation behind her paper and our relationship. And I'm really excited to talk to you today. So thank you for being here.
You're welcome. I'm nervous.
All right. So just forget about the cameras, forget about the mic in your face, forget about the headphones on your ears. And I just want to get to know you. I'm just
going to pretend I play ESO with my grandkids.
Right. So let's just dive into who you are and tell us a little bit about you. And then we'll get into the Floyd Beacon and the motivation behind that and what you've been able to accomplish, and then how we connected. That's the flow of the conversation is. Let's just start with who you are.
Wow. I'm a lot of things, and most of us are. I'm a independent woman with a voice that she likes to use. I like to write. Yeah. I'm a mom and a grandma. I have 7 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren, and I'm 72 years old and proud of it.
Wow.
I'm very active.
Yeah.
You're never going to quiet me down until the day I don't breathe anymore.
Heck yeah, I love it.
I believe that people have a voice and they need to use it. And the fact that we don't use it is how we get into some pretty sticky situations in our social and economical and political community life. You know, if we're not speaking, who's hearing the people's voice?
Right.
You know, who is speaking if we're not speaking?
That's true.
Was my question, which is kind of like how we started the newspaper.
Right. How long have you been in Floyd? Like, tell me about, growing up and like,
wow.
Are you a transplant? Are you originally from around here? Tell me about that story.
Long story short, because it is a long time. Yeah. I was born in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. Didn't stay there long. Raised outside of Detroit, in the suburbs of Detroit. I went to Berkeley High School, Roanoke area. My sisters and my immediate family from personal family still live there. I was a Navy wife. I was in the Navy.
Gotcha.
I traveled a lot in the Navy to a lot of, I lived in Japan for a number of years.
Wow.
I'm a Vietnam veteran. I'm a cultural anthropologist, and I have a degree in American history,
Wow.
from the University of Missouri. I didn't do that I went to college with my kids. When my kids started going to college, I went back to college too.
That's awesome.
And I did it really well for somebody who wasn't a good high school student. I
Right.
graduated summa cum laude with I think a 3.9 average or something. And the only thing I did different than the kids did was I paid attention and followed the directions.
No partying, no socializing.
Which is what I didn't do in high school.
Right.
I believe in being a lifelong learner. I believe that the only thing that stops us is the fact that we believe we need to stop.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm married to a gentleman who works for the government as a contractor. We live in Floyd, but I used to live in Blacksburg.
Gotcha.
We moved here from St. Louis area. I lived on the St. Louis side, the Missouri side. He lived on the Illinois side. We met in an Irish pub, got married in an Irish pub.
Nice.
Had a big Irish one, we... how do I want to say it? We're not rural people. We moved to Floyd not because we wanted to raise animals, but because my husband doesn't. He likes trees.
Yeah.
There aren't many trees in Blacksburg.
Right.
We live down here. I believe the road is called Lucas, up by Abby's restaurant.
Yeah.
We lived down there a year. We rented a really nice house for some nice people, but everybody kept telling us, "You and Michael belong in Floyd." So we had a gentleman from Old Virginia Realty, Robert Cupp. He passed away not too long ago. Showed us some houses and found one we really liked. And
Roger was a early mentor of mine. I actually did
nice
one of my first transactions with him prior to me being in the real estate business. I considered Old Virginia real estate as I was getting licensed Because he had shown me some things and was interested in me and things like that. We ultimately didn't work together, but great guy, enjoyed that guy, like learned from him and did transactions with him. Very nice guy.
Oh, he was so patient with us, but we didn't know anything. I mean, my husband was working at Scott, in the St. Louis area. Excuse my allergies.
Yeah, no problem.
And overnight they changed contracts and we had to move to Virginia. 2 weeks.
Wow.
So we just we packed up everything, and put it in a truck and moved to Blacksburg, which was, we didn't know where to move.
Yeah.
And we spent a year, and it isn't that we didn't like Blacksburg, it's that we missed trees.
Gotcha.
My husband wanted trees, so we moved to Floyd, and we fit in pretty well.
Yeah.
Pretty well in Floyd. It's
awesome.
a nice town.
I love the stories that include coming here and then settling down and making a life here. So that's, I love those stories.
My family, I actually have roots in this area, but
Yeah.
they go back to the 1700s.
Yeah.
My family's name is Skaggs, and the Skaggs men were long hunters. The gentleman that went with Harmon and Boone and opened up the Cumberland Gap, going west, and fought at Kings Mountain, and but there's no real record of them, or not very much record of them right here, because they went with Boone to Ohio and Kentucky and Missouri, and they stayed there. Yeah. So when I moved back here, I do anthropology, right? I started working for my grandchildren and my children on our own genealogy.
Yeah,
and I found that we were from right here, from Botetourt and Fincastle and Montgomery County, and at that time Montgomery County was everything. I mean, it's huge. But so I kind of feel like I'm connected, especially when I found a road sign, one of those historical road signs, and it had my family name on it. I was pleased.
Nice.
I was pleased. This was home.
That's awesome. I love those stories. So let's talk about the Floyd Beacon. Tell me about the motivation. Tell me, what inspired you to do this? It had to be something like really passionate to get into this form of medium and want to try to put this out here locally in the, I guess it's the sludge of the media today. So just tell me about that.
I've always liked why people are motivated to move.
Yeah.
I studied immigration, or emigration, as might be a better word for it. Large movements of population, and what spurred those, and why people would, for a political cause or something they believe strongly in, make the sacrifices that they made to come across an ocean or explore a new country. Or there are a lot of examples of that. I like to write. And I like to write what people. I like to do oral history. I studied oral history. I did my internship in oral history. So I like to talk to people. Well, I also am an election official for Floyd, and I was working one of the polls, and these people. And it was back a couple of years ago when they were doing one of those special elections, and they moved the date, and people didn't know. Everybody was coming into the poll saying, "Why are we having this election? Who are we voting for? Why are we here?" And I'm thinking, well, how did you get the word? Well, my friend told me, or somebody called me, knew I would be interested in wanting to vote for this issue, right? And I said, well, I just inadvertently said, didn't you look in the newspaper? And, well, the Floyd press doesn't print that kind of stuff at that time. I don't for sure know if they do now. And people were saying, well, we don't want to buy the paper. We don't like the paper anymore. The paper is not the 100-year-old community paper our community had enjoyed and once it changed hands.
Yeah.
And
so that was bought by a big media outlet.
I believe it was Lee Enterprises who sold it to, in the Berkshire Hathaway, that whole nonsense that got all the media is being bought up, all the local media.
Yeah. And
then being plugged into a local regional newsroom, and then all the news comes back to the community with just a few names and
the brand that they're familiar with, but it's not really local writers.
And they loved their original owners and editors, and they pined for them.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
And So I was angry. I said, these people don't have any information. They don't have a voice. And I'm all about words. And I believe words take on a life of meaning of their own. Because once you express them, you can't take them back.
What you say matters.
And you don't know how they're going to affect someone
Yep.
else.
Yep.
And so they need to be good words, and they need to be true words.
Yeah.
And so I called my friend on a whim, this woman I had met at another meeting, and we kind of got along really well. And she's the same kind of personality. And I called. I said, Amy. I said, you want to start a newspaper? And I was kind of being facetious, and I was thinking we were going to have a 2-page broadsheet to give the calendar, give the election dates, maybe the school lunch,
right.
A few kind of things like that, the church calendar. And she said, sure. She says, it's kind of been in my head to do something like that anyway. So I said, okay. So we started exploring it, thinking, okay, where are we going to get paper? What do we really need?
And you had no background in this stuff?
No. Amy has a degree from Radford University in marketing.
Gotcha.
And I have a history degree and a writing. I have many, many, many hours of writing from the University of Missouri in their honors college. So we just started doing and it kind of grew. People found out that I was conservative, and I was going to print some conservative news, because what was lacking was any kind of conservative news at all in the area. So what we thought would be this 2-page, maybe 4-page little broadsheet kind of thing you fold up and pick at the grocery store, turned into 6 weeks later, 12 pages, 500 copies, full color, bright white, and everybody loved it. We named it the Floyd Beacon because we decided that we just wanted to shine a light on what was going on in our community.
Perfect name. Let's shine a light on what the government is doing, our local government, what people are doing. Let's give the people a voice to say and express themselves if they want to. Yeah. We don't always get people at first who wanted to write. At first, the people who wanted to write were the people who wanted to start a militia and I went with that. Yeah. Our first issue was Amanda Chase when she came to Floyd in front of the courthouse with the big flag. And from there, we just stayed kind of a conservative paper, and there are a lot of people who don't like me because of that. Yeah. But there are a lot of more people who like me than don't. I would rather them make a decision about me than be indifferent. I kind of want to be the polarizing option. I want to be either they really love me because they've gone deep with me and we're like-minded, or they don't care for me and they've made a decision that they don't want to associate with me. I'd rather that than nobody know who I am.
Right. What was really happening in Floyd Scott was there's in the center of town, it has like a different mindset. It's a much more liberal mindset. And most of the people in Floyd County are not liberal. I mean, the voting polls, the last election showed you that. Right. Floyd is important.
So around the stoplight is liberal, but as you go further away from the stoplight,
right? And well, in the Floyd town area, okay, and there probably maybe approximately, I don't know for sure, 500 people who live in the town of Floyd, right? The rest of the county, it's a rural county. Their interests are going to be more conservative. They're going to be more. I don't know what it isn't. Godly is not quite the right word. Maybe Christian conservative might be. Yeah. They're not part of the living on Floyd time. Everything is paid for by a grant. They have a different culture.
Gotcha. And like it's pull your pull your boots up, lace them tight, and get to work.
Right.
Type thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And if you read my paper, you'll discover that I am very conservative and I'm very patriotic, and I am very much a constitutionalist. And those are the people who buy my paper, who want to read my paper, who mail my paper across the country to their families. Wow. And we've started up a website, and it's just getting off the ground.
Yeah. How old is this thing?
It started September 1st, 2020.
Okay.
It was conceived at the end of June 2020. So in the middle of the pandemic. So the pandemic was just getting started, kind of, yeah. So from the middle of June to the 1st of September, we figured out how to create that paper. We had no idea how to create that paper.
Awesome.
And what was entitled. And I have had the help of a really good layout person, Suzanne Siegel in Florida, a lady named Stacy Harefield, who is no longer working with the paper because she's doing other things.
Yeah.
My friend Amy, who doesn't want to be in the spotlight at all. My husband, the GOP, Floyd Concerned Citizens, all these people have been so supportive of me.
I honestly feel like, this could be what's driving your purpose too. Like, you got to find significant things to do in your life. And I feel like this could be very significant to the community, which is a legacy of what you'll pass on for, however long this thing runs.
I will print the paper as long as I'm able to print the paper.
Yeah.
Financially and physically, I am, I'm not.
Let's talk about that. What does it take to produce this thing? What does it take to make this whole thing happen?
Production wise or cost wise?
Both.
Production wise, it's done on my computer in my dining room. We were going to open an office, and I couldn't get the owner of the building to give me a lease. I needed to create a sign and make some changes. I didn't want to put that investment in, so we decided to back away from an office.
Gotcha.
I had it for 3 months. We used it as the GOP headquarters to store signs and do some of the work for the paper there. I brought it back home. It's made on my computer in my dining room.
Hilarious. That's awesome.
People email me things in.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody who writes for that paper is passionate.
Yeah.
I have a man who has been a CEO of 3 international corporations. He's a survivor of PTSD from the Vietnam War. He's a pastor. He is a highly educated speaker and writer. His name's Lee Houston, who writes for the paper. I have William Payne, who writes for the paper, who used to work for Southwest Virginia Times, and Lee Enterprise, who I believe he's a little too conservative for those people.
Right.
I have a lady who is a mathematician, a world-class chess player, a poker gambler.
Nice.
I mean,
I like her. I like to play poker.
That's Debbie, Debbie Johnson, who writes for Understanding. But the paper, people send me things in. I do not chase ambulances. I will not, people said to me, there was a person shot by the cops in Willis. Why didn't you run that story? All I did was put in on the Facebook page, out of respect for the family, I'm not going to run this story. This is not news. That's tragedy to me.
Yeah.
And it isn't that I only want to print upbeat things. It's that I don't want to glorify what is so fundamentally wrong with our society.
Yeah.
This was a man who had mental health issues, and it just got out of control.
Yeah.
That isn't something to print in the paper for me. I want to print, like when the sheriff, he called me and said, Kellean, I got a story for you. And I didn't print so much what he was or who he was arresting and the drugs. I printed that the 2 counties worked together. The sheriff was doing good things for the community with his department, and that they were really after, drugs. And I didn't want to print what the crime was. I wanted to print what the sheriff was doing.
Yeah.
And
I like that perspective of the story a lot better.
Right. There's not a lot going on in Floyd. So sometimes, like, the front page becomes, what's going on Claytor Lake in the wintertime. But I try to keep the front page about Floyd.
Yeah.
I send the paper, I collect all the files, I put them in folders, and actually my husband does, I'm not good at computers. He sends them to the layout person who's in Florida.
Wow.
And she creates the look of the paper, and then she sends the files to the printer who's in Virginia, prints them, and then he delivers the papers to me. And my husband and I deliver the papers because a young college gentleman who was doing it for us graduated from high school, and now he's going to college, and he's away. The paper's not hard to put together, if I had a few more people to write for it and to work for the paper locally, and I'm always advertising for them, it would be a little easier for me.
So you need writers, you need journalists that are ready to...
people to contribute.
Yeah.
I will help you edit it. You don't have to be a professional writer.
Right.
If I do some heavy editing, I will send it back to you before I print it.
Right.
You know, if I'm correcting grammar, well, that's a little different.
I'm sure you had to do that when I sent you mine. You know, the thing I sent you about the the Blacksburg shooting that Friday night.
Yeah,
we talked about that.
Yeah. And I gave that to William Payne, because I'm not a reporter. William is a reporter who has years and years of experience, who knows how to get to a story. I know how to write it.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know how to follow it up. He did the P.J. Robinson the two stories, the two issues, the two issues before this. And he went and he interviewed him, and he talked to his wife, and he got his perspective of what happened. And the paper didn't advocate that the man made smart decisions. He didn't make smart decisions. When you're told not to have guns and you've got a problem, like you're in trouble with the law, maybe you ought to listen to that.
Yeah, definitely.
But the man is not a terrorist. You know, he's a decorated cop and or police officer. That's a better way to say that.
Yeah.
And a veteran of our military. He's not someone who needs to be in solitary confinement 23 hours a day because our government needs a scapegoat for that, for what's going on, to be able to call it terrorism, because it wasn't terrorism.
Right.
But that's my opinion.
Yeah. I like it.
The cost of the paper, I started the paper with $140. And my husband's goodwill. And it's expensive. It is. And, we were free initially. Then we had to start charging $1.25 for it. That doesn't pay for that. That doesn't pay for that issue. That $1.25. It just helps to go with the advertising. And because up until recently we have stayed in Floyd, trying to stay more local, because that's the area I understood, there's just not that many businesses to advertise in Floyd. We're small business friendly. I will give away space to a new business to say, welcome to the community. This is what you offer. Let's give this couple or these people who are independent business owners a chance, because that's America.
Right.
I think we forget, or our younger people think that this, what I call homogenized shopping at every freeway intersection, is American shopping. It's American manufactured good. None of it is who we were 50 years ago.
Yeah.
I remember growing up going downtown to J.L. Hudson's to actually sit in front of on the sidewalk in the cold in Detroit to watch J.L. Hudson's parade and go into department stores and see the big displays and moms with their kids. It was none of this online, everybody is detached from one another.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with it. I think it's how we get into social problems in our communities.
Yeah. I crave human connection and interaction. And, when they were trying to strip us and put us in masks and tell us to stay home, that does something to my heart, and it does something to my, my business too. Like, I got to be with people.
Why don't we use the brains we were given and the experience we have learned in a lifetime? Did it make any sense at all from the beginning to mask people like that?
No.
It did not.
Yeah.
Everything. I have not been. I will not be. Yeah. And I won't wear a mask.
Yeah, me too.
And if you think that I have to have those things, then I don't have to deal with you. Yeah. That's my choice. That's your choice.
Yeah.
I think that we go along too easily. We give up who we are. If you remember, do you know who Rousseau is? He was a philosopher, I think the late 1700s, like Hobbes and Locke and all those people.
Yeah.
And he had a social contract with people. And a lot of people thought, well, maybe this could be a good deal, that independent people would give up their liberty for government security to take care of them. The government would decide what they could have and what they couldn't. And all they had to do was go along with the will of the people. The idea was small groups of small areas, small direct government, everybody voted. And if you didn't go along with the good of the people, which was, which was logical, which was, made sense, then you could be made free. And made free was handcuffed or sent somewhere away to a jail. Well, that's what's happening in America, and people don't realize it. And that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
This is what democracy is.
Yeah.
This is what it means to be an American. And this is what liberty is. And the contract with the American people is we, the people, are the government. It is not that the government takes care of us.
Yeah.
And it might be nice to think that, or easier to think that somebody's going to get a house or somebody's going to get food. But what did we give up for that person for that to happen? We gave up our liberty, our right to free thinking. The contract with America and America's government is not that the government does it for you. It's that you are the government, and our Constitution tells us it's our duty to keep the government in line.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell people in the paper. I do it with definition. I do it with explanation. I do it with writing articles. I have other people write articles for us. I want to inform people about who we really are. Yeah. We are not.
And we're losing that. We're losing it. So it's like, you're trying to put perspective on it and wake people up, it seems like. Wake up or you're going to be put in a spot where you don't want to be.
I want people to remember.
Yeah.
People, a lot of our readers are, they're mature people.
Yeah.
Okay. They have grandchildren. They have children. I'll give you an example how out of touch our children are. Would you believe that young people don't know who Lassie is?
That's wild.
And I can prove it. I own a collie. And when I take that collie places, young kids go, and even their parents go, what kind of a dog is that?
Wow.
Oh, it's a Lassie dog. And I purposely say that. That's a Lassie dog. Who is Lassie? Okay.
Yeah.
And and I'm not to say that not to promote the Lassie show,
right.
but to say there was a simpler time in America when we didn't watch things that were made up. I love The Mandalorian, but I love Lassie better.
Right.
Because Lassie's real.
Right.
We need to be real. We need to stop doing homogenized shopping and listening to people spin news. I remember in Detroit, in St. Louis, there was a guy named Julius Hunter, and I really liked his show. He was an African-American gentleman, and I believe he was on Channel 4, but I can't remember for sure. And he was my favorite newscaster because he told me the news. He opened my eyes and gave me a different perspective about what was happening in St. Louis.
Yeah.
In North County and South County. And if you know anything about St. Louis, that's like night and day.
Right.
Okay. And one day I was listening to his show and he was telling me what to think.
Oh, wow.
He was spinning the news. And it was the first time I realized that this was a man who no longer wanted to inform me about facts. He wanted to tell me what to think about them.
Wow.
I'm going to tell you what history says. I'm going to tell you what the dictionary says or social thinking is or how we got to the places about natural rights and where these concepts come from.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to let you decide what you think about them.
Right. You're not putting your opinions in here. You're just outlining the facts.
Oh, I do write editorial.
Gotcha.
I do. But I also, there's something in the paper that's coming out. People are going to think I'm crazy. 2,000 words. Half of it's definition. But it's definition that explains to you, the difference between the contract that America has with its government and the contract that the people have with socialist governments. Mm. And the difference is the socialist government will take care of you, but you have to give up your liberty and your independent thinking. And if you don't go along with them, that you're bad. That's how China is organized. I write about CRT. What is CRT? How long has it been here? These concepts are not new.
Yeah.
They're 1,000 years old, and we just relabel them over and over and over. And we need to know what those labels are now and how they're being used against us.
Yeah. Well, tell us.
Oh, my. CRT, that's kind of a new phrase, right? Yeah. Critical race theory or social emotional learning, SEL. Right. It's communism. It's socialism. What is socialism? It goes back to Rousseau. Rousseau said, let's have one government run by the people. Rousseau's idea was that it would be the people's government. It would, and everybody would get to directly vote. This thing now, everybody should have a direct vote.
Yeah.
And it'll make absolute sense that you will go along and vote for what the majority wants, because that's going to be for the good of the community. Well, that's the tyranny of the majority. There is such a thing as a tyranny of the minority, but that's harder to explain in a radio show for me. So these concepts go back hundreds of years, thousands of years. Look at Greece. What was Greece? It was its own kind of a democracy. And we say that was a direct democracy, right? So direct democracy is not a new idea even for Rousseau.
Right.
These concepts haven't changed. We just need to see them for what they are. And because they're being thrown at us digitally, not even digital, over the air.
Yeah.
You can't see them.
Right.
And doesn't it sound good? Somebody's going to get a free house that didn't have a house. And somebody's going to get groceries. And I want kids to have groceries. And
there should be no kid hungry in this country.
No, nobody without medicine in this country. But socialism is not how we get there, because never has socialism ever worked.
Yeah.
My stepfather comes from China. My sisters are half Chinese. I know none of them who want to go back.
Right.
They all left. My stepfather's family was so determined that he wouldn't grow up in China. He came here on a boat by himself when he was a young boy. And then the Depression happened, and, the 20s and the 30s, and his dad, who was already here, could not afford to keep him here and sent him back to China. Oh, wow. That was an expensive, hard thing to do on a boat, right? Okay. They had to get him out of China. They had to get him to Hong Kong. They had to keep him there till he could get all of his, as we would say, ducks in a row, get the money, get the food, get everything he needed to get on this boat and come to America. They did it twice.
Wow.
So that he could come, he could live here. And when he got here, his dad had died, and he was raised for a few years going to high school. By that time, he was a little older, in Kalamazoo by a Christian family there. And he turned around and he joined the American military and the Army. And we recently just found out the military honored the Chinese veterans, and he won a Purple Heart. Wow. We never knew that. We never knew he fought with who's the guy who fought Rommel? I can't remember. Is it Patton's tanks?
Wow.
This was a Chinese American man who at that time was not a citizen.
Wow.
Just like our own, our lieutenant governor. I lost her name off the top of my head.
Right. Yep. I know who you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. Winston Sears.
Yeah.
And she wasn't a citizen when she did that.
Right.
People all over the world want to have what we have.
Yeah.
That's why they come here. That's, and that's good. And those are the kinds of things I want to talk about in my paper.
Yeah. I think that's awesome and compelling. And I'm excited. I'm excited for our relationship moving forward. I appreciate, we connected because we were following Marie around, Marie March. I think we met in Richmond and really kind of connected.
Well, we had met before that.
Okay.
We had
But we really connected there.
Right. Marie told me about the podcast, and then I think I met you at the barn one time, and then I met you when we went to Richmond.
Right.
And I think what you do is what I do with the paper.
Yeah.
I want people to understand who we are and how we connect, and to hear our own voices and not the voices of other people. If I could say anything about my paper, I want it to be your voice and his voice, and not the voice of somebody telling me and telling us what to think.
Yeah, I like it. Well, I just I'm excited for the future between us. I mean, you got an article here about my podcast. I really appreciate that. I think we can bounce a lot of ideas off each other. I think we can contribute to each other in a big way. I'm excited to connect with you, go deeper with you, have you back on to talk about just individual stories that are compelling you around Floyd and the New River Valley. And
so we're expanding outside of Floyd.
Gotcha.
We want to go Well, we want to, whatever, if you talk to people in Floyd, there are many people in Floyd who do not consider themselves part of the New River Valley.
Right.
Because they're up on the edges of the valley.
Yeah, that's true.
But I try to tell people, I've written several articles, that what happens in the New River Valley in this area concerns people in Floyd.
Yeah.
We don't live in a vacuum.
Yeah.
And our economics, our tourism is important to Floyd, to our small businesses. What happens in Carroll County is important to Floyd, definitely what happens in Richmond. Yeah. So even though I call the paper the Floyd Beacon, it had to have a name.
Sure.
And it
originates from a person in Floyd.
Right.
And it origination, it's a great name. I love it.
Yeah. And you'll see that what we have there is the Buffalo Mountain draped in a flag.
Yep.
And the Beacon of Liberty, just like Paul Revere would have carried.
That's awesome.
And am I a colonial person? Yeah, I am.
So how many papers do you think you're circulating right now?
Oh, we print 1,000 every 2 weeks.
Okay.
We do not sell all those 1,000.
Yeah.
We have a lot of our papers, about half are mailed to different subscribers. Mm-hmm. I think we mail somewhere between 200 and 300 papers. Okay.
Gotcha.
I probably have at the end of the month or the end of the 2 weeks. We pick up what we don't sell, obviously. We probably have several hundred papers that we pick up from the different distributors, different locations. But every month, that's a little less. Every week, we get a few more subscribers to our website, which is what we're hoping really takes off. There, we have a blog there if you want to talk about any of the stories. Yeah. If you're a subscriber, then you can go back and read every issue of the paper that we have. I have a lady, her name is Teresa Martin. You might know Teresa.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, she works with Marie. She does the New River Homegrown.
Yes.
She works, yes. Okay. She also does the Replenish Fest, some other things like that. She's a fabulous lady who works hard for my webpage, and we are really hoping to have more people subscribe to it. You just go to thefloydbeacon.com and you can subscribe either to the physical paper to be mailed to you or the webpage.
Right.
I'm having a good time with it, only not because of the work. It keeps me busy, but because I want people to realize who they are, where we come from.
I like it.
That's important. Not where somebody else wants us to go, or they think we need to go because isn't that for the betterment of someone?
Yeah.
People need to be independent. People need to work. To have a feeling of self-worth. You have to work.
Yeah.
This
is a great. I gotta keep coming back to like this. Even if it don't make a profit, it's a purpose. There's a purpose behind what you're doing here, and I love that that's your purpose.
Right. I talked to Mike Williams, the Pulaski Patriot, and he said, Kelly, it's not quite a newspaper. It's more like a magazine. And it is. It has stuff about Floyd in it. And we're starting to reach out into Montgomery County to your school board. That's been a fun thing. Right.
Oh, man, I'm going to have Alicia on. I booked her. Like, we're talking about coming on hopefully as soon as possible because all the heat that's on that right now.
She's been on every Fox show there. I talk about instant fame.
Yeah.
I would love to have somebody know what we do because we don't do it because of Floyd. We do it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
The right. I'm not afraid to say God in my paper.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to call out the Board of Supervisors, not because I think the Board of Supervisors are rotten people, but because I don't think that they're doing, I think the community needs to know what is happening.
Yeah.
For example, in Floyd, there's a big water problem in Floyd. They have like 5 wells, 6 wells, and only one of them's working.
Wow.
So we're going to expand a community? No, that's not how you build a community. And I think these are things that the people in Floyd need to know. If you're going to build new houses and have new businesses, that's really well and good. I'm all for that, right? But let's make sure we have the infrastructure in Floyd that's going to support that and the ability to build that infrastructure. Where is that money going to come from?
Yeah.
It isn't that I think the Board of Supervisors or the town council has done a bad job. It's I think there needs to be some light shed on what they are doing and what needs to be done.
Sure.
So I think the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to start asking for sponsors.
Yeah.
I have to ask for sponsors. To be very honest about the cost of this paper,
Yep.
it's cost my husband and I $10,000 plus what it brings in
Yeah.
to print that paper, because printing ink.
So you're in the red. You're in the red 10 grand versus the revenue that comes in and it's already spent.
Right. And that's because ink and paper and mailing. It cost me like 80 cents to mail every one of those papers. We charge $45 or $49 a year for a year-long subscription of it. So you can see it. They say freedom isn't free. Conservative journalism, free journalism isn't free.
No doubt.
And it just kind of breaks my heart.
Well,
old Granny saying.
I'll tell you on the air, I'm definitely interested in some sort of sponsorship, some sort of trade where you get something for value and I get something for value. Let's just keep talking about how we can partner with that.
Right. I have some people who I think you would find interesting to have on. Lee Houston is one of them. I was going to suggest Alicia, but Alicia did that all for herself this past week. A guy named Vernon Dalton, he's a pastor of one of the rock churches up there, has a lot of good things to say. People need to know that we need to not be afraid of each other.
Yeah.
Understand each other.
For sure.
Yeah.
I like it.
And we do that with our own voices, not with someone else's.
I agree. All right. So I think that's a good stopping point for our first show. I think you guys need to go pick up the Floyd Beacon. Last place I seen it was down at Reiner Food Store.
It's at both stores in Reiner, and where is it at? It's at the Schoolhouse Fabrics. It's at the Express Mart. It's at the Willis Mart. It's in Dougspur. Nice. It's out in Salem. Nice. So you can pick it up at different places.
Yep. And then always, if you need quick access, hit them on the website. What's the website?
thefloydbeacon.com.
Nice. floydbeacon.com. All right. Well, we're going to wrap it right there. Very interesting. Thank you for being on. More to come. More to come with you, I think. So we need subscribers. Go to our YouTube channel, subscribe. Find us wherever you listen to podcasts. And
Beacon needs subscribers.
Yep. So that's what we're going to do. We're gonna kind of cross promote each other, and hopefully my fans become your fans and your fans become my fans. And I appreciate you putting me in the paper here, so maybe others can find me that aren't necessarily on YouTube a lot or not necessarily listening to podcasts a lot, knowing that you've come on. Maybe they want to come and hear your story, which is an awesome story. So thank you.
I don't know. I've been so nervous.
Yeah, hey, you've done great. You didn't come off nervous at all.
I feel like Tatty Cathy here.
You did great. I need people a little longer winded. I need people that carries the conversation, carries the story, and you have great stories. So thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Talk to you guys next time.